Hey curators, welcome back for another finished object feature video. Today I am talking to you guys about my finished Snowpine Sweater. This is a new pattern out by Wool and Pine Designs. It's a top-down raglan that features this really cool all over 3-color work motif, for lack of a better word. So as you can see, the sleeves are a different color from the body, and then across the sweater as a whole it carries this flea stitch motif. And yeah, I absolutely love this sweater. I thought I would take you guys quickly through the garment, how it's constructed, things that I enjoyed about knitting it, and all of that good stuff. So we'll jump right in. So as I mentioned, this is a top-down raglan. It is worked both flat and in the round at the same time. Yes, you heard that correctly. It is worked using intarsia to create the different colors between the sleeve stitches and the body stitches of the sweaters. So you cast on your rib stitches for the collar with 1 ball of yarn. Then when you are ready to start working the yoke, you add in 5 balls as you go. Essentially it's 4 to start, and then on the second row of the sweater you add in your third contrast color ball, which equals 5. And so the way the pattern is worked is I can show you along this back seam, is you work an increase, you knit along the right side of the rows, increasing, and then when you hit the end of the row you join the 2 sides of the sweater together via both an increase and a decrease stitch worked at the same time. It sounds really complicated, but once you do it, it makes total sense. It's one of those things that you just kind of have to do and trust the process as you do it. And so yeah, you knit that way. As I said, you're knitting flat. So on the right side you're knitting, on the wrong side you're purling, and you, on both rows, you're doing an increase stitch at the start of the row and a decrease stitch at the end of the row to join the body together. Once you have completed your raglan increases and created the appropriate depth for your size garment, you then divide the sleeves. The body is knit completely in the round with this all over fleece stitch. Once that's done, you then go pick up your sleeves and work those as well with the all over fleece stitch. It's a really simple repeat. It follows the rule of 3s. So every 3 stitches you're doing the fleece stitch, and then every 3 rows you're working it, which is really nice. And I don't think that's giving away the pattern because that's pretty common for the fleece stitch motif. I personally opted for high contrast between the sleeves and the body of my sweater, which means that the fleece stitch on the body of my sweater is super subtle, whereas it really stands out on the sleeves. I know Zoe went for more of a low contrast combination between her body and sleeve choices, and that resulted in a much more cohesive fleece stitch across the whole body. I personally like that you kind of have to be up close and personal to see the fleece stitch motif on my sweater, because it's like a fun surprise when you're talking to someone. And I love how it pops off the sleeves and it's just a subtle surprise on the body. So I knit the size 43.5 inch bust. It gives me about 1.5 inches of ease. I've talked about this in the past. I personally like a little bit less positive ease in my garments, and that's why I chose the size I did. I do believe the pattern is written to be a little bit more oversized and cozy, so you can just pick your size depending on the look that you want. Because I did go a little bit easy on the ease, I got more of like a fitted blouse, which is great for me. It makes it a lot more wearable for work. It's a little bit, not dressier, but it's just not quite as casual as looking. And I did bracelet length sleeves because that is my preferred sleeve length of choice. I do have larger arms. So what I did is I ended up picking up, I think, 5 extra stitches underneath the underarm. So I think I ended up really following the instructions for the size above what I was knitting. Really what I focused on was making sure, once again, since this is a 4-stitch repeat, whatever I picked up was a multiple of 4, so I could continue the fleece stitch motif on. And yeah, just repeated that. And then I probably should have done a bit more decreasing than I did here for the sleeves, but I was really worried it would be too tight. And I don't mind that they're kind of loose and open. It's very comfortable to wear. The yarn that I used for this project is some special yarn that I have been hoarding forever. So this is from the Border Mill. It's their Alpaca Rose base. It's a 50-50 blend of alpaca and rose fiber. So the alpaca is giving like a really soft, almost halo effect, much like you would get from like a mohair, because it has all those coarser guard hairs. And so I don't know if you can see the halo coming off of the garment. And then the rose fiber, which is a plant-based fiber, is giving a lovely sheen similar to what you would get from a silk. And I know since the alpaca tends to be drapey, and then plant-based fibers also tend to be drapey, they don't have as much memory as a traditional wool. I knew that this would grow and relax with wearing and blocking, which it definitely has. It was a little bit tight when I finished. I was a little worried, but now that it's blocked and I've worn it a few times, it is, like I said, you can see here, it is just growing and relaxing into the perfect shape. Overall, I have to say this was a really fun, engaging pattern. I have never worked intarsia before, so that was a learning experience. And I have to say, if you can catch a float, like if you've done color work before and caught a float, I found that process to be similar with the intarsia. It's essentially just a way of twisting the yarns on each other. What was harder was actually just managing 5 balls of yarn at the same time while knitting. And so that I found to be the bigger there's a little piece of alpaca fluff floating around. Sorry about that. I found actually managing the 5 balls of yarn to be the bigger challenge than the actual technique of the intarsia. So what I ended up doing was, while I was working on the yoke, I just had like a spot on the couch that this sat, and I lined up my balls of yarn like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just kind of move them as I went so they didn't become a tangled mess. And with that system, I was able to complete this just like I would any other fingering weight garment. Like if I'm really into that project, in about a week I was able to complete the yoke. And then, like I said, after you slip the sleeves, it's just smooth sailing, the body flies. I have to say this was such a fun, enjoyable potato chip knit, because you just want to do, it's like, okay, it's just 3 more rows till I do the next color work section. Okay, it's just 3 more rows. And so you kind of get into that rhythm, and the gauge is written for, I believe, US 5s. I knit mine on US size 4. Just what it is. Everyone's gauge is different, but I think at that kind of bigger, looser gauge, like I said, it just went really fast and it was really enjoyable. I think this is the type of pattern that you can have a lot of fun with the different color combinations, high contrast, low contrast, a mix of the two depending on what you choose for your sleeves and your fleece stitches and your body. The world is your oyster. When I tried this on after I finished the body and I hadn't yet worked the sleeves, I loved the idea of doing a short sleeve. So I've already started to dream of a second summer version of this sweater out of a linen that I have in my stash. And so that might be happening. I might skip the fleece stitch just to simplify things. Like I said, I think it's a really versatile pattern. One of the other great things is Abby and Selena, who are the designers behind Wool and Pine Designs. They do offer video support for all of their patterns as they come out. And so if you've never worked intarsia before, like me, there's definitely video tutorials available to you if you should choose to do one of those. So one of the other great things about this pattern, it is great for stash busting. If you have a couple like random 2 skeins in your stash or some 1 skeins, this pattern is great. For the body of my sweater, I ended up only using 100 grams, and then for my sleeves, each sleeve I used a 50-gram skein, but I didn't even use the full amount of that 50 grams. And I also only had 50 grams of this blue color, and I believe I ended up using 30 or so grams of that, which for a fingering weight sweater, that is great because it spreads out the love across the skeins being used on the pattern. So when I was originally putting together potential palettes and ideas for this, I really focused in on those kind of random 2 skein collections that have built up in my stash. Overall, I would highly recommend this if you're an adventurous beginner who's interested in trying intarsia. Definitely say give this pattern a shot. It's got a great kind of sporty, casual, cool, I just love the vibe of it. I think it's super cute, and I really loved learning some new techniques. So yeah, I will show you guys at the end. I did a little photo shoot with Mr. Yarn Curator the other day. This is how I will probably wear this sweater most of the time, which is just over a black sundress with a pair of boots. Perfect, like I said, for being able to wear to work. I think it looks super cute with jeans as well. I wore it with jeans the other day to work on a kind of a more casual Friday sort of thing. And yeah, it's, like I said, it's really versatile. I think you can dress it up, you can dress it down, and just have fun with it. If you guys have any questions about this pattern, let me know down below. I would be happy to answer them for you. Let me know if you're interested in making it as well. And until next time, I hope you guys enjoy whatever you're making. I hope it brings you joy, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!